Hi folks, it's Matt here from the RCR podcast. It's been a while, it's that time of year, it's hectic, flat out survey season, all that kind of good stuff. However, we keep getting a question into the office here, and I thought, you know what, today is the day. I need to jump on this bad boy and get the information out to the good listeners. And today's podcast is about Biodiversity Net Gain. So first off, I'm going to give a kind of technical overview, and then I've got a list of points here from our ecologists in the head office in Inverness of questions that they get asked all the time. So we'll have a quick run through that in a minute, and then we'll look at the final kind of points on that and the best way to move your project forwards. So essentially, BNG or Biodiversity Net, it's been a long day. Biodiversity Net Gain is a new approach in UK planning law that aims to improve natural habitats and contribute to the recovery of nature during land development. There has been, for a number of years now, when most local planning authorities look to get they look for there to be no net loss through development, but now 10% mandatory gain is coming, and it's going to be implemented under the Environment Act in November 2023, so we're not that far away now. And although it's not mandatory at the moment with a lot of local authorities, we are starting to see it's being requested for pretty much every project that comes across our desks. So it's going to be implemented in November 2023 under the Town and Country Planning Act 1990, and then from April 2024 for smaller sites. And there's a few exemptions, and we're not too sure exactly what that's going to look like just yet. But in simple terms, BNG is about leaving the environment in a better state than it was before. So for years, the default position for all ecologists in relation to planning is to make sure nothing gets damaged. If something is going to get damaged, then you look to minimise that. It's called the mitigation hierarchy. If you can't mitigate for it, then you start to look at off-site compensation or compensation on site following development. So if you are a developer of any size, pretty much including residential projects, you have the responsibility to minimise the loss of habitats during your project. If it's not possible to avoid a loss, then you must create a new habitat either on the site of your development, so within the red line boundary, or elsewhere, which is off-site. And if neither of these options are feasible, then you need to start looking at purchasing statutory credits from the government, which will be used to invest in habitat creation elsewhere in England. Now, we could talk about the politics for this forever. Some of us that are old enough start to think, oh, here we go, carbon credits all over again. Possibly, but anything that we can do to improve biodiversity through development has got to be a positive thing, right? Local planning authorities will be responsible for approving BNG plans before any development work can begin. So, and most likely securing that through a Section 106 agreement as well. So, yeah, it's something that you need to consider upfront. There are provisions for smaller sites with a transition period, like I say, extending to April 2024. And in terms of small sites, because this comes up quite a bit, they are defined for residential purposes as a site hosting between 1 and 9 dwellings and having an area of less than 1 hectare, or a site of less than half a hectare if the number of dwellings is unknown. For non-residential, a small site is one where the floor space to be created is less than 1,000 square metres, or where the site area is less than 1 hectare. So that's kind of the technical overview out of the way, and CIEEM, our industry trade body, has released lots of guidance on this, and if I can find it in front of me, I will pop it up in the show notes so that you've got that information moving forwards. Let's pop that up and make sure I haven't missed anything here. So where are we? Yes, the technical stuff out of the way there. So essentially all local planning authorities, all LPAs are at different stages of implementation at the moment. CIEEM recently had a webinar where it became very clear that implementation looks very different right the way across the UK. So at the moment, ecologists are upskilling like mad to change from assessment methodologies like JNCC, which, if I remember right back in the day, Joint Nature Conservation Council, when I did all my training at Merriswood back in the day, it was the JNCC guide to habitat assessment. It looked like it had been handwritten by a child with crayon. Anyway, we're moving from JNCC to UK HAB. Scotland's a bit different to England, and CIEEM have producer guidance notes on that, which I'll link below. So it's a bit of a mess at the moment. It's a race to November, and essentially what you need to know is this is the important takeaway. If you remember one thing from me rambling on, this is not about simple numerical calculations or what's known as the DEFRA metric, which is an Excel spreadsheet. There are clear steps to take on this, and the deliverables that need to go in and support your planning application are very clearly laid out by local planning authorities on their websites. And your consultancy should engage with the LPA early on. So step one, engage the assistance of an ecological consultancy early. Now, I'm not just saying that because obviously there's fees involved with all of this, but our passion here is to help people keep their planning on track, and the best way to do that is to engage appropriate consultants to assist you right the way through. You cannot be an expert in every single area of a planning application, so get a good consultant on board early on. They will check LPA guidance, they'll find out exactly what your local planning authority expects in terms of a deliverable. They will advise on what is achievable at an early stage. They'll assist with landscape design, and more importantly, they will feed into your design team. What we get quite a lot at the moment is a scheme goes in, there has been limited ecological information gone in with the planning application, and then the LPA ecologist comes back and says they want BNG calculations. So the customer goes out to market and says, I need BNG calculations, but actually all the design work's been done, all the landscape proposals and everything has been done, and it makes the whole thing a bit convoluted and messy, and we'll always do our best to help you, but it's certainly not easy that way around. So step one, engage a consultant early on. Step two, a PEA and a walkover. So PEA, preliminary ecological assessment, or PEAR, preliminary ecological assessment reports. It's all about the acronyms today. I've talked about this in other videos. I'm not going to go into what that actually means, but essentially you need that PEA, you need that baseline data, and the data has to be collected to UK HAB. Habitats need to be assessed to UK HAB, so that will feed into the metric nice and easily. Otherwise, conversion has to be done, which is quite tricky sometimes. And to do that, step two really needs a topographical survey. So you're going to have to get that topo done. It wasn't that long ago where even for reasonably sized schemes a ordnance survey tile was okay. Not anymore. You need a topographical survey. The reason being, you need to be able to measure off it. We need meters squared of what grass is on site, the hedgerows, tree cover, hard standing, all of that feeds into the metric. And following on from that, it means that your landscape architect has got a plan that they can then work off of to work out exactly what new habitats are going to be created. Step three then is to perform those metric calculations. There are no online tools for this, so don't waste your time Googling. It may well be that DEFRA come up with some sort of online portal for this eventually, but at the moment it's all done in good old-fashioned Excel with macros and all sorts of complicated things that I don't fully understand because I hate Excel with a passion. But we have a computer here in the office that is just running BNG calcs at the moment. There are two different types of calculations. There's a small site metric, which can be done by any competent individual, and then there's the full metric, which has to be done by a fully qualified, preferably CIEEM registered ecologist. And it's important to note that in terms of an output, all local planning authorities are different at the moment as to what they will expect. Some people are happy with an addendum to your PEA, talking about biodiversity net gain, and then the calculations included or screenshots. Some local authorities want the full metrics submitted to them, and some also want a full biodiversity net gain report, which is a separate standalone report. So every LPA is different at the moment, and it's almost impossible to know what you're going to get in terms of pushback. So this all sounds fun, doesn't it? The key takeaway here is start thinking about this stuff early. It's a bit like our trees first not last moniker, so that includes biodiversity net gain now. So if you've been asked for BNG calculations, there's more to it than meets the eye, like they say in Transformers. So what I would highly suggest is reaching out to an ecological consultancy like ours early on, get some good advice, and I'll put a link in the show notes as to how you can do that. So enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you on the next one.